Y'all be saying God open up doors. God open up doors, but man, God open up windows. God open up hearts of men, hearts of women. God open up bank accounts.
In this surveillance video, first obtained by Local 10, shows the moment Wells is shot just before 9:30 p.m. You see him stumbling and falling. We have frozen the video before Wells falls for the final time. The video, extremely hard to watch, will be a critical piece of evidence in the investigation.
Now at 9, a man described as a pillar of this community shot and killed while playing dominoes with his friends. And neighbors say Dwight Wells, the founder of Bikes Up, Guns Down, inspired people to really change their lives.
October 10th, 2025, 9:20 p.m. A man who survived prison, violence, and his own worst demons was about to lose the only game that mattered, his life. Have you ever worked hard to change who you are, only to wonder if your past would catch up anyway? Maybe you've rebuilt yourself, started over, proved to everyone and yourself that you're different now. But deep down, there's this nagging question. What if it's not enough? What if someone out there still sees the old you? For Dwight C. Wells, that question wasn't hypothetical anymore. Because on that Friday night in Miami's Liberty City, someone decided Dwight's second chance had lasted long enough. Liberty City, Friday night, the kind of evening where the neighborhood hums with life, music spilling from car windows, the smell of BBQ hanging thick in the warm air, people catching up after a long week. Outside a popular spot called Winning and One Turkey Legs on Northwest 17th Avenue, Dwight Wells was doing what he did most Friday nights, playing dominoes. 3 men, a folding table, cold drinks, the snap of tiles hitting wood. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. Dwight was 40 years old, a father figure to dozens of kids in the community, a business owner, a mentor, the kind of man people pointed to and said, "See, that's what change looks like." His girlfriend Lulu sat right beside him, close enough to hear him laugh, close enough to feel safe, but someone had been watching, someone who'd waited for this exact moment when Dwight was visible, distracted, predictable. At approximately 9:20 p.m., a figure stepped out of the shadows, masked, focused, moving with purpose, no hesitation, no words. The man walked straight up to Dwight Wells, raised a gun and fired. Multiple shots, point-blank range. Dwight collapsed. The shooter turned and ran, disappearing on foot into the maze of Liberty City streets before anyone could react. Lulu screamed. The dominoes scattered across the pavement. Blood pooled under the table where laughter had been just seconds before. Miami police arrived within minutes, possibly alerted by ShotSpotter technology. Officers found Dwight struggling to breathe, multiple gunshot wounds tearing through his body. Paramedics rushed him to Jackson Memorial Hospital's Ryder Trauma Center. He didn't make it. Dwight C. Wells, entrepreneur, activist, reformed man, was pronounced dead. Lulu, still shaking, gave the only description she could manage through her tears. A masked man. That was it. No height. No clothing details sharp enough to identify anyone. Just a mask and a gun. Later, when reporters asked her about Dwight, she broke down. He didn't deserve that. He didn't. It wasn't right. He wasn't just no animal. That phrase, wasn't just no animal, stayed with investigators. It felt personal, defensive, like she was responding to an accusation the rest of us hadn't heard yet. The killer walked up, fired, and vanished into the night. No robbery, no argument, no struggle, just execution, cold, calculated, public. This wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong or a bar fight that escalated. This was a hit, and that left Miami Police Homicide with a question they couldn't answer, a question that would haunt Liberty City for months. Who wanted Dwight Wells dead badly enough to pull the trigger in front of witnesses? Because here's what made this case so unusual. Dwight wasn't involved in the streets anymore. He'd left that life behind over a decade ago. He ran a legitimate business. He mentored kids. He fought them against gun violence. So why would someone risk everything, risk being seen, risk leaving witnesses, just to kill him? What had Dwight done that was worth dying for? Or more accurately, who had he been that someone couldn't forgive? If you've ever wondered how someone can do everything right and still lose everything, stay with me. Because Dwight's story isn't just about one man's murder, It's about the impossible cost of redemption in a world that doesn't always believe in second chances. And if this story grips you the way it gripped Liberty City, hit that like button. It helps us bring more untold stories like Dwight's to light. To understand who killed Dwight Wells, you first have to understand who he was. And more importantly, who he used to be. Because Dwight Wells wasn't just one man, he was two. Welcome to True Crime Footprint, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most terrifying true crime tales. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. 2004 Miami. Dwight Wells was 19 years old when he made choices that would define the next decade of his life. Second-degree murder, armed robbery, armed carjacking. These weren't mistakes. They were crimes. Violent, deliberate, life-altering. On May 7, 2007, a judge handed down the sentence 10 years in a Florida state prison. Dwight was led away in cuffs on June 6, 2007. He wouldn't see freedom again until he was nearly 29 years old. For most people, that would be the end of the story. A young man swallowed by the system, spit out broken, unemployable, destined to cycle back in. But Dwight refused that script. November 1st, 2013. Dwight walked out of prison gates with nothing but a release date and a choice. Become who he'd always been, or build someone entirely new. He chose the harder path. Immediately, not months later, not after drifting back into old patterns. Immediately, Dwight turned his life towards something bigger than survival. He opened a restaurant, winning and won turkey legs, Northwest 17th Avenue. It wasn't just a business. It was a statement. Dwight taught himself to cook, perfected BBQ recipes, built a menu that locals couldn't resist, soul food that reminded people of Sunday dinners and family tables. Critics praised him. Pastors ate there. The community gathered there. A local artist, David Anasagasti, even painted a mural on the building, a permanent mark of respect for what Dwight had built from nothing. He wasn't hiding his past. He owned it, talked about it openly, used it as fuel. In 2023, Dwight posted online, "I came home from doing 10 years in a state institution, and the things that the Most High have been allowing me to do, with and for a community, have been great, and I'm thankful." That gratitude wasn't performance. It was belief. Belief that transformation was possible, that the worst version of yourself doesn't get the final word. But Dwight didn't stop at business. He became an activist. In 2022, he helped found Wheels Up Guns Down, a registered nonprofit with a simple mission: replace guns with bikes, replace violence with brotherhood. The idea was radical in its simplicity. Get kids on dirt bikes and ATVs. Give them something to belong to that didn't involve a trigger. Dwight organized rides, spoke at events, showed up when others didn't. He also did something most people overlook. He cleaned up forgotten black cemeteries across Miami, places like Lincoln Memorial Park in Brownsville, where history had been buried under neglect. He gave dignity back to the dead while fighting for the living. His mother, Mary Brown, described him best: a pillar for this community. Not just a member, not just a participant, a pillar. The kind of person you lean on when everything else is falling apart. Friends said he was a loving father figure for so many different kids, that he would always give someone the shirt off his back. One friend summarized it plainly: Dwight was always about change, not talking about it, being it. Dwight didn't just survive prison, he refused to let prison survive in him. But here's the problem with redemption. It doesn't erase the past. It doesn't make victims forget. It doesn't heal every wound or settle every score. And for Dwight, the past had names, faces, families, people who remembered. Think about it. Dwight served time for second-degree murder. That means someone died because of him. Someone's son, someone's brother, someone's father. And while Dwight spent 10 years locked up, that family spent 10 years mourning, grieving, maybe waiting. Then he gets out, opens a restaurant, gets celebrated, becomes a local hero. How would that feel if you were the mother of the person he killed? Would you see redemption, or would you see injustice? And it wasn't just the murder, armed robbery, armed carjacking. Those crimes have victims too. people who lived in fear after staring down Dwight's gun, people who never felt safe again. Then there's the prison decade itself. 10 years surrounded by men with grudges, hierarchies, debts. Dwight could have made enemies inside who carried that hatred long after release. So when Dwight died on that sidewalk outside his restaurant, Miami police had to confront two possibilities, both equally haunting. Was this revenge for the man he was, or was it punishment for the man he became? Because if someone killed Dwight for his past, it means redemption never protected him. It means forgiveness is a fairy tale, and the streets always collect. But if someone killed him for his activism, for daring to pull kids away from guns, for standing up and saying there's another way, then it means hope itself is dangerous. Either answer destroys something we want to believe in. Dwight's transformation made him a symbol, but symbols are dangerous. They inspire people. They threaten systems. They make enemies. And Dwight's biggest mission, the one that put him in the crosshairs of both law enforcement and the streets, was just beginning. Dwight's biggest mission was also his most dangerous, because the movement he built to save lives may have been the very thing that signed his death warrant. Wheels up, guns down. 5 words, 1 mission. Replace guns with bikes. Replace violence with community. It sounds simple, almost naive. But in neighborhoods like Liberty City, where gun violence isn't an abstract concept, it's the soundtrack to childhood, that idea was revolutionary. Dwight believed deeply in it. He helped formalize the movement, registered it as a nonprofit in February 2022, and poured everything into making it work. The philosophy was straightforward. If young people are building friendships by riding together, keeping each other safe in numbers, they're less likely to harm each other with bullets. Give them an identity that doesn't require a weapon. Give them brotherhood without bloodshed. Every Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the movement exploded into the streets. Hundreds of riders, dirt bikes, ATVs, motorcycles roaring through Miami in massive formations. For the participants, it was freedom, expression, reclaiming space in a city that often felt like it didn't want them. For Dwight, it was proof that change was happening, that kids were choosing wheels over weapons. But for law enforcement, it was chaos. Because here's what the police saw. Reckless riders doing stunts in traffic, wheelies on highways, bikes weaving against oncoming cars, blocking intersections, using sidewalks, dangerous, illegal, uncontrollable. The Miami-Dade Police Department, Florida Highway Patrol, and multiple agencies implemented what they called a zero-tolerance policy. No warnings, no second chances. They deployed helicopters, drones, patrol units coordinated like military operations, boxing in riders and shutting down routes. During one 3-day enforcement operation around MLK weekend, the numbers were staggering. 144 arrests, 554 citations issued, 58 vehicles impounded, bikes, ATVs, cars. And here's the part that complicated everything. 20 firearms seized, 20 guns, at an anti-gun violence event. Let that sit for a moment. Dwight and his co-organizers were trying to get kids to put down guns and pick up handlebars, but some riders were carrying both. That contradiction became Dwight's nightmare. He was stuck in the middle of a war he never asked for. On one side, law enforcement, who saw him as an enabler, someone giving cover to criminal behavior under the guise of activism. On the other side, street riders, who saw him as a sellout every time he tried to negotiate with city officials or impose rules to make the rides safer and legal. Dwight wanted legitimacy, permits, dialogue, structure. But structure felt like surrender to riders who believed the whole point was defiance. And cooperation felt like betrayal to police who wanted the rides shut down entirely. So who did Dwight anger more? The cops who arrested hundreds of his riders and confiscated their bikes? Or the riders who felt Dwight was compromising their culture to satisfy the same system that oppressed them? Both had motive. Both had access. Both had reason to see Dwight as a problem that needed solving. Dwight understood something crucial about cycles of violence. Whether it's on the streets or behind closed doors, you can't fix what you won't name.
Right now, an urgent search for a cold-blooded killer. Surveillance video capturing the moments a community activist is gunned down in Liberty City. Now, loved ones and community members are mourning the death of Dwight C. Wells. Good evening, too. I'm Chelsea Jones. Police tell us the suspected gunman took off on foot and is still out there at this hour.
Dwight Wells was also known as Screamer and was killed right behind me outside of Winning and One Turkey Legs, the restaurant he owned. But this was just one of his passions. Wells was famously known for creating the movement Bikes Up, Guns Down. Loved ones tell us the killer took away a Liberty City pioneer.
What type of screamer, man? Bikes up? Bikes up? Bikes up!
Dozens of kids on bikes pulled up to Northwest 51st Street and 17th Avenue to remember 40-year-old Dwight Wells, also known as Screamer. The founder of Bikes Up, Guns Down movement was shot dead outside of his own restaurant Friday night.
He decided to sacrifice his life and be right here in a community that he was raised in and give back to his community to build it up.
According to the City of Miami Police, 9:30 p.m. Friday, Wells was playing dominoes with two other people when someone walked up and shot him. Surveillance video from the business next door shows people running in different directions as Wells fell to the floor. According to police, the shooter took off on foot. Wells was taken to Jackson Ryder Trauma Center where he died as a result of his injuries. People say while he no longer is here with them physically, his legacy will live on through the movement he built.
He was the father figure for so many different kids with Bikes Up, Guns Down. So many kids come to my brother for advice.
If you're in a relationship where fear has replaced love, where bruises are explained away, and isolation feels like safety, that's not love, that's control. And just like Dwight fought to break the cycle in his community, you have the right to break yours. Abuse doesn't get better with time. It doesn't heal through silence. It escalates. If someone's words cut deeper than any blade, if their hands have taught you to flinch, if you're reading this and your stomach just tightened, you already know the truth. Reach out, speak up. Your life is worth saving. You don't need anyone's permission to survive. So now investigators had two possible killers. Someone from the streets who thought Dwight had gone soft, a traitor to the culture he claimed to represent, or someone in a badge who thought Dwight had gone too far, an agitator hiding behind nonprofits and activism while enabling mayhem. But there was a third option, one nobody wanted to consider. What if the person who killed Dwight had nothing to do with the movement at all? What if they'd been waiting long before Wheels Up, Guns Down ever existed? What if this was never about bikes or police or activism? What if it was always about the bodies Dwight left behind in 2004? This story gets more complicated and more heartbreaking. If you're still with me, drop a comment. Justice for Dwight. Let's keep his name alive. Let's make sure his story doesn't disappear into the silence that protects killers. Because the truth is, Dwight had three potential enemies: the streets he was trying to save, the system he was trying to change, and the ghosts he thought he'd left in prison. One of them pulled the trigger. What if the man who killed Dwight Wells wasn't a stranger at all? What if he'd been waiting 21 years? Miami police had three working theories, three possible roads that all ended with a masked man and a gun. Let's walk through them. First theory, someone from the movement itself, a rival gang threatened by Dwight's anti-violence work, or a radical rider who felt betrayed when Dwight started playing nice with authorities. Here's why it fits. Dwight was pulling kids away from the streets, offering them an alternative. That's a direct threat to gangs that recruit from the same pool. If you're running guns, moving product, building crews, Dwight was your enemy. He was literally taking your future soldiers and putting them on dirt bikes instead. And for the hardcore riders, Dwight's push for permits, for structure, for legitimacy, that looked like surrender, like he'd forgotten where he came from. The execution style supports this theory. Quick, professional, public message. But here's the problem. Why use a mask? If this was a gang hit meant to send a message, they'd want credit. They'd want fear. A mask suggests someone who couldn't afford to be identified. Second theory, the past finally caught up. 2004, Dwight committed second-degree murder. Someone died because of him. That victim had a family, a mother, maybe siblings. friends who never forgot. For 21 years, they watched Dwight serve his time, get out, and become a hero. Celebrated, praised, redeemed. How would that feel? Your son is dead, and the man who killed him is flipping turkey legs on Instagram, getting murals painted in his honor, mentoring kids like nothing ever happened. Justice or insult? Then there's prison. 10 years surrounded by enemies, rival gangs, personal grudges that don't expire when you walk out the gate. Someone from inside could have waited until Dwight got comfortable, until he had something to lose. The mask makes sense here too. If the killer knew Dwight personally, if they'd served time together or shared a victim, they'd need to hide their face, not from strangers, but from Dwight himself in those final seconds. This theory has weight, real weight. Third theory, it was personal, but recent. Winning in one turkey legs was successful, visible, making money in a neighborhood where opportunity is scarce. Success breeds jealousy, competition, resentment. Maybe it was a business partner gone sour, a vendor dispute, a territorial conflict with another establishment, or maybe something in Dwight's personal life, a relationship, a debt, a conflict nobody saw coming, escalated beyond repair. But here's where this theory struggles. Business disputes don't usually end in public executions. They end in lawsuits, intimidation, maybe arson. For someone to walk up in front of witnesses and execute Dwight, the stakes had to be life or death. Not money, not pride, survival. So which theory holds? All three have merit. All three have motive. But the mask is the key. Deliberate anonymity suggests two things: premeditation and personal knowledge. The killer knew Dwight's routine, knew he'd be outside that restaurant, playing dominoes, relaxed and visible. That's not random. That's surveillance. And that brings us to something law enforcement stresses, but most people ignore. Patterns make you predictable. Predictability makes you a target. Whether you're a public figure or not, if you're in a high-risk environment, vary your routines. Don't leave work at the same time every day. Don't park in the same spot. Don't relax in the same visible location week after week. Dwight played dominoes outside his restaurant regularly. Same spot, same time, same people. Someone knew, someone watched, someone waited. Don't give them the chance. If you've got enemies, known or unknown, make yourself a moving target. Routine is comfort, but comfort is vulnerability. 3 theories, 1 masked killer, and 0 arrests. Because in Liberty City, there's one rule that trumps them all. No snitching, even when the victim is the one person everyone loved. Fear is a weapon sharper than any knife, and whoever killed Dwight knew that fear would protect them long after the gunshots faded. The question is, will it protect them forever?
If this turkey leg don't fall off the bone, we ain't open tomorrow. Winning the one turkey legs, this is more than a movement, this is a lifestyle. We the only one, the only one in Dade County that's dropping off the bone like this. Oh my, I don't know how I do this. Hey look, this is more than a movement, this is a lifestyle. Winning the one turkey leg, it can't get off the bone.
Miami police launched a full homicide investigation. But in Liberty City, justice doesn't just need evidence. It needs courage. And courage is the one thing fear destroys first. The Miami Police Department's Homicide Bureau arrived fast. Officers canvassed the scene, collected shell casings, photographed blood patterns, interviewed witnesses. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses was pulled and analyzed frame by frame, hoping to catch the shooter's approach or escape route. Forensic teams processed everything: ballistics, DNA, fingerprints. They did their jobs, but none of it mattered if no one would talk. Liberty City operates under an unwritten law older than any statute. No snitching. It's not just a motto, it's survival strategy, a shield against retaliation. Because in neighborhoods where violence is currency, cooperation with police gets you labeled, targeted, erased. Even when the victim is universally loved, even when it's someone like Dwight, the code holds. Fear doesn't care about justice. It cares about tomorrow. Lulu sat right next to Dwight when it happened. She saw the masked man approach, saw the gun rise, heard the shots. She lived through the worst moment of her life in real time. But the mask did its job. No facial features, no identifying marks. Just a figure in the night who became a ghost the second he ran. Detectives asked her everything: height, build, clothing, voice. But trauma fractures memory, and masks erase faces. She gave them what she could. It wasn't enough. Weeks passed, then months. No arrests, no suspects named publicly, no breakthroughs. The case didn't just stall, it froze. And with every silent day, the message became clearer. Whoever killed Dwight Wells knew they'd be protected by the one thing Miami police couldn't overcome: community fear. The same code of silence that protects killers also traps victims of domestic violence. You're told to keep it in the family, to protect the abuser's reputation, to believe no one will help you anyway. But silence isn't loyalty, it's survival. And survival isn't living. If someone's fists speak louder than their words, if threats are called love, if you're reading this and your chest just tightened, you already know. You don't need more proof. You don't need it to get worse. You need a way out. You don't need permission to save yourself. And you don't owe silence to someone who's stealing your peace. Dwight's family refused to let grief become surrender. His mother, Mary Brown, leaned into faith.
I loved him. He loved me.
Wells's mother, Mary Brown, said she had spoken to her son 30 minutes prior to the shooting.
He say, "Mom, I'm on my way to you." I say, "Come on, son, because I'm waiting."
Sadly, he would never arrive.
I said that I wouldn't try to come to a conclusion. I wouldn't try to figure it out. I'm going to let God work it out. He was well known. He was well liked. Now, I knew that he had enemies. He say, "No, Mama, my face clean in the city." Who shot my son? You shot a man of God. You can run, but you can't hide. I'm not worried a bit, because God know what to do. And I hope that I'll be here to see you, to give you a hug, and welcome you to jail.
God has calmed my spirit, she said. He has given me peace. But peace didn't mean acceptance. Dwight's aunt, Suzette Hester, spoke directly to the killer. You took a good person away from a family. You can run, but you can't hide. God got your every move. We are praying that the angels come and get you specifically. That wasn't a threat. It was a promise, a belief that even if human justice fails, accountability still exists. Despite losing its founder, Wheels Up, Guns Down didn't collapse. Organizers gathered at the Miami-Dade Community Relations Board, determined to keep Dwight's vision alive. They met with city officials, sought dialogue, pushed for legitimacy. A GoFundMe campaign titled Bikes for Bikes Up Guns, Down Boys and Girls, raised thousands of dollars before closing donations, proof that Dwight's work still mattered to people who believed change was possible. The movement he built didn't die with him, but it carried the weight of his absence. Here's what makes Dwight's death so devastating. He was the success story, the walking, breathing proof that people can change, that prison doesn't have to be a life sentence, that redemption is real. And then a bullet erased all of it. Dwight survived the streets, survived prison, survived his own worst self. But he couldn't survive the one thing he spent his life fighting, a bullet with his name on it. And here's what haunts me. Go back to the beginning of this video. Listen to how Lulu described him. He wasn't just no animal. That phrase, just no animal, wasn't random. It was personal. Almost like she was answering an accusation we never heard. Rewind if you missed it. Because the more you look at Dwight's death, the more you realize someone had already decided he was guilty. The question is, guilty of what? Dwight C. Wells was 40 years old when he died. He spent 10 years in prison and 12 years trying to make up for it. He fed his community, mentored kids, fought gun violence with his bare hands and a bicycle, and on October 10th, 2025, all of it ended with a masked man and a gun. His killer is still out there. The case is still unsolved. And somewhere in Liberty City, someone knows exactly who pulled that trigger. The question is, will they ever say? If Dwight's story moved you, if you believe his life mattered and his death deserves answers, share this video. Get it in front of someone who might know something. And subscribe, because we're not letting stories like Dwight's disappear into silence. His family is still fighting. His community is still grieving. And until there's justice, we keep talking. I'm your host at True Crime Footprint. And remember, redemption isn't a shield, but it's still worth fighting for. Our hearts ache for Dwight's family. Words feel inadequate, but please know you are held in deepest sympathy and prayers. May you find strength and comfort in the memories of Dwight. Thank you for watching, for your attention, and for joining us on this journey of reflection. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and above all, stay safe. See you on our next video.